Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my March reading wrap up. I was able to read 12 books in the month of March, which is really great for me. But before we hop into the synopsis and reviews for all the books I read, if you're new here, hello, my name is Emily. This is MacInnis Mama, where you will find mostly bookish content. Gardening season is coming up, and while last year I didn't really share any on Instagram, you guys have asked for me to bring back some lifestyle and gardening content on this channel, so that will be sprinkled in, but that will just be like extra content. There will still be tons of bookish videos for you. So if that is something that interests you, I would love it if you would subscribe. Rambling is my superpower, so I'm going to try and get better at that and give a bit more of a brief description and review. So to kick off the month, we started on a low note. This is Happenstance by Tessa Bailey. Tessa Bailey is really hit and miss for me. I have hated some of her romance books, and I gave 4 or 5 stars to some of her romance books. This is on the shorter side, and it is a why choose romance. We are following Elise and these 3 men. The romance kicks off when they get trapped in, is this called like a tram? I don't know. It loses power, they're stuck in the middle of the air, these 4 people, and the romance starts from there. I did not enjoy this. I gave this 2 stars. Elise, what is so good or interesting about her that these 3 very different, quite successful men are tripping over themselves to be with her? I didn't get it at all. It was fun to read about, kind of, but it just didn't make any sense to me. And I have read Why Choose books that I've really enjoyed. There's going to be one in this reading wrap up. This was not it. I did not like it, and I feel bad because I'm probably going to get rid of it, even though this was a gift from my husband. Don't recommend. I then read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. This is my first Frida McFadden, and it is her newest release. I saw it being hyped all over Book Talk, and when I looked it up on my Libby app, I was able to grab it immediately, even though it had been released a couple days prior. And then after that, the wait list got really, really long, so I guess I just got lucky. This is a thriller, and definitely check trigger warnings if you are a sensitive reader. This does involve a student and teacher situation going on, which can be triggering for people. We are following multiple perspectives. We are following Eve and Nate, who are married and both teachers at the same high school. Nate teaches English, Eve teaches math. Nate is beloved. He is handsome and smiling and welcoming. Eve is hated by her students because she's a harsh teacher and quite stern, strict, I guess you can say. We're also following Addie, who is a student of them both, and I'm just going to kind of leave it there. It's a thriller and I don't want to give too much away with thrillers, especially because I personally like to go into them blind. I will say this was a wild ride. I gave it 4 stars. I did not see the twists coming, but I hated the epilogue. It totally ruined a lot of it for me, so I rated this based on pretending the epilogue didn't happen. The epilogue simply didn't make sense to me at all. Like, it was thrown in there for shock factor, but it wasn't logical either. I then buddy read Never by Jessa Hastings with my bookish bestie Sam. She's almost always linked in my description box because I talk about her almost every single video. This is a fantasy romance Peter Pan retelling, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. First and foremost, I love Jessa Hastings' writing. If you liked her Magnolia Parks series and are also interested in fantasy romance, I would give this a try. Jessa Hastings kept more true to the original children's classic story, Peter Pan, which I'm actually currently reading, than the Disney Peter Pan, if that makes sense. And we're obviously following it's Daphne who's like our Wendy character. She is one of the darlings, and Peter Pan when they are older, so that is a factor as well. But this is like a character study. Similar to Magnolia Parks, we are following very flawed characters while they make poor decisions, and it's really frustrating to read about. It's very toxic, again, just like Magnolia Parks. So I really found that I enjoyed this a lot. I loved the world. I loved how Jessa keeps you on your toes. This has that whimsical Neverland feel as well. I really had a good time reading this. Next, for my TBR Takedown series I'm doing on my book talk, I read Marked by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. This is technically a reread for me because I was obsessed with this House of Night series in like middle school, high school time. So I haven't read these books in like 15 plus years. And I was hoping that this would be like a light, fluffy, nostalgic read. How I feel about Harry Potter, maybe. Like, I didn't think I was going to love this as it stands today, but I thought I would really enjoy it. But I gave this 2 stars. I really didn't like it, and Sam encouraged me to try the next book and see if that nostalgia enjoyment kicks in. But there were so many flaws in this, so many things that didn't make any sense at all, and I don't know why I liked it so much before, and I'm really sad about this because I bought the first 10 books in the series at a yard sale because of the nostalgia. I saw it on the table, it was like $30, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna put those on my shelves and reread them. So 2 stars. I didn't even tell you what this is about. This is a older YA school setting vampire book. I feel like I don't need to explain more than that. It was published in 2007. That's about all you need to know. Then Sam and I finished Powerless by Elsie Silver, the 3rd book in the Chestnut Springs series. This is a small town cowboy romance series that I'm absolutely loving. However, this is my least favorite of the first 3. We're following Jasper and Sloane. It's a childhood friends to lovers. Sloane leaves her horrible fiance at the altar. Jasper has the getaway rescue vehicle, and it was really fun. But Sloane was who was lacking for me, which is usually not what I would say. Like, I wanted more out of our female main character, more character development, and like seeing her building up her strength and her mental health on page, which I don't really feel like we got that. I liked Jasper much more as a character and his vulnerability, and they do grow and change together. Obviously this is a romance, they end up together, but I wanted more from Sloane, so I gave this 4 stars. Still liked it, but didn't absolutely love it like the other 2. Then I finally finished Manacled by Senlin Yu. This took me 6 months. And I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't that it was long, it's that everyone kept telling me about how emotionally devastated I was going to be, and I have been not doing the best up here. So I kept being too scared to finish it. I would read a couple chapters and then be like, it's getting a bit too intense, putting it away, reading a bunch of other books, and I just kept doing that for 6 months. And because of that, I did not get that emotional impact because I feel like I built this wall to keep my peace a bit more, and I probably should have just soft DNF'd it and returned to it when I could read the whole thing and like get that emotional impact. But I kept myself from being impacted emotionally because I didn't want to be emotionally devastated by it. Does that make sense? Once again, I forgot to tell you what it was about. Manacled is a 900-page fan fiction. Draco and Hermione, dark fantasy romance, dark. with like a Handmaid's Tale twist to it. Hermione is brought in by Voldemort and, you know, the dark, I forget what they're called. Wow. Brought into this breeding program and like gifted to Draco Malfoy to produce an heir. So there is on-page sexual assault, which was really hard to read. I'm gonna be emotional. There's so much in this book that was hard to read. It was so well written. Like, I will definitely pick up, it's being rewritten to be traditionally published. I will read that and I will commit to reading the whole thing through because I feel like I did myself in the book a bit of a disservice from how I went about reading it, because I really wanted to get the story. Everyone was loving it, but I didn't want to be hurt emotionally and mentally. Then I finally finished The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is an upcoming video. Wow, this took me literally months. I can't even tell you the amount of times this book put me to sleep on the couch, which I usually do not do. Like, even at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, this could put me to sleep on the couch. Like, I couldn't read it. It was so boring to me, so convoluted. And someone on TikTok, I grinded their gears a little bit, saying like, it's just because it's like a high epic fantasy and you know the comments. I have read like Game of Thrones and stuff, which is convoluted, flowery, detailed writing, and I never had the same problems as I did with this book. I'm just saying. I gave it a generous 2.5 stars because I didn't want to make the Goodreads people mad. I did not enjoy this. The bits that did have action, things that actually moved the plot forward, loved those bits. But all the filler bits in between, the history of the mountains, like the lore of, and I know like that's what people say is like super rich world building, but it was putting me to sleep. I'm so sorry if this is your favorite series. Then I had a really good spell. So I started The Never King by Nikki St. Crow with Sam, of course. These are around 200 pages on Kindle Unlimited. Dark, Peter Pan, fantasy romance, why choose? How many buzzwords could I fit in there? I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4.5, I believe. I had the best time. This is why I choose between like our Wendy character, Peter Pan, and 3 of the Lost Boys, and the series is called Vicious Lost Boys, and they are vicious indeed. And I was pleasantly surprised by the actual fantastical elements in here. Like, that kept me intrigued. I was really surprised by this book. It's 190 pages. I liked it a lot. I then finished off the Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey. 2 Tessa Baileys in March, which I didn't realize until I started doing my wrap-up content. I read Tools of Engagement, which is kind of like an enemies to lovers situation, kind of. They are flipping a house together, so if you like HGTV kind of stuff, this could be for you. Well, this whole series really. I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed the first book in this trilogy, didn't love the second book, and then really loved this third book. I listened to it on audio. I was smiling the whole time. There's fantastic like mental health representation in here. Bethany really struggles with perfectionism in like a really toxic way. It doesn't say she struggles with OCD or anything, but it has that like compulsive perfectionism to like, it affects her everyday life, it affects her relationships, that sort of thing, and she's working through that. Wes is in town from out of state to take care of his niece, and they are flipping this house together. Like I said, I really loved it. Following that, I had another 5-star read. I have a full review of this up on my Bookstagram and Book Talk. This is Two Twisted Crowns, the second book in the Shepherd King duology. This is such a step up from the first book. I love this like misty, sinister setting that we have in this YA fantasy romance series. In this book specifically, we have a quest, which I love in my fantasy books. We really dive deeper into our characters, like the character development, their motivations, who they really are, and I ate this book up. This was in my 24-hour readathon, which is already up. I can link it. I love this book to pieces, and I have 2 books on my April TBR that I hope will give me the same vibe. Also, in my 24-hour readathon, I read Hunted by Darcy Coates, my first Darcy Coates book. This is, I would describe it in between a horror and a thriller. I feel like it was equal parts of both. We are following a disappearance. Eileen goes missing in this forest and is being hunted, but we don't know by what. Is it a monster? Is it a ghost? Is it a man? And I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. And the reason why I say it's kind of in between a horror and a thriller is because for certain POVs, we are scared. We're in the forest, it's night, something's chasing us, bad things are happening. But then there are POVs within the police force, and we have a lot of mysterious things going on. We're connecting the dots and working through the case, which has this more thriller mystery detective sort of vibe. So flipping between all these POVs just kept me so engaged. I love this a lot. And lastly, we have The Dark One by Nikki St. Croix, the second book in the Vicious Lost Boys. This one is 226 pages, so just a tiny bit longer than the first one, and I gave this 4 stars. I liked this one less than the first one. The fantastical elements were lacking a little bit compared to the first one for me. This one was much more spicy, which I didn't mind. This one's much more focused on building this relationship between all of them. There's 4 men and then our female main character, so building connections with all of them. And I've already read this with Sam as well, of course, and I feel horrible saying this, but in the first book, without giving too much away, our female main character is able, I have my hair in my face, to use her body as a manipulation, because it's kind of like captor-captive in the first one. And then in the second one, I feel like she went from that to madly in love with all of them for, different reasons, way too fast. And I liked it more when the Lost Boys and Peter thought they were manipulating her and she was manipulating them, and there was a bit of this scheming, captor-captive situation. And then if the second book felt kind of like insta-love to me, even though clearly it's not insta-love because it's book 2, but I don't know if that makes any sense. I liked it less than the first one, but I still really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. So those were all 12 of the books I read in the month of March. My voice is trying to die on me, so I'm going to stop rambling. Let me know your thoughts if you've read any of these books as well, and what your favorite book that you read in the month of March was in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up so that I know, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!